Hi folks, we're Tacitus today, Tacitus Day, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that's quite topical and analogous to the situation the Western world is in with mass migration of as a result of compassion and good manners and a sense of humanity and so on and so forth, inviting people into your house or your country or your place of work, or it doesn't really matter, but inviting people in purely on the basis of supposed compassion and humanity without thinking about the practical reality of what's going to happen once they're here. Because the act of compassion is to say, well, look here, the door's open, come in. So you perform the act of compassion. But what then? What happens after that? And what is ongoing compassion? Is it endlessly handing out free stuff? Is it allowing them to make the rules and say, hey, we have special pleading, we're different from you, so we want special this and we want dispensation that and so on. So I'll go back to, I suppose now I'm about, 22, something like that, and a good buddy from high school, like a long-standing buddy, and he's gone interstate, and his sister wants to move from interstate to Sydney, where I'm living at the time. And so he says, look, can you put up my sister for maybe a week or two, few weeks tops, while she's looking for a place to stay. She's got some job lined up or something in Sydney, and do you mind? And I'd be really grateful. He was a good buddy. I liked him, and we got on well, and he'd done favors for me, and so yeah, sure, no problem. I had met the sister previously, but couldn't really remember anything about her. Anyway, she fronts, and she must have remembered me more clearly than I remembered her, but she arrived quite clearly, I thought anyway, the way she sort of flirted quite intensively the minute she walked in the door, which I thought was a bit of, hey, I'm doing this as a favor to your brother, not because I want to fuck you, for goodness sakes. And anyway, I didn't remember you, and two, you're a long way from being my type. So it wasn't, I mean, she wasn't that bad that someone would have had to hold a gun to my head to fuck her or something, but it would take quite a lot of alcohol before, and a bit of desperation before anything would have happened, even if it would have. Anyway, she comes in. So she arrives, and she, I've got like a queen size bed in my room, my bedroom, but there's a spare room, like it's a 2-bedroom apartment, and there's a spare room, and there's a like a single bed. There's a child's single bed. She's not very big. She's not tall or anything like that. So she could easily do that. But she straight away, she looks at, and said, well, hey, do I have to sleep in that bed? As if I'm going to give her my bed and I'm going to sleep in that one in my own house. So straight away, I remember that was, she was already sort of pushing, hey, I'm in charge around here. You have to do what I want. And there was definitely a sense of snotty girl entitlement. And I got the impression she probably bullied her brother, my buddy, probably bullied her brother into making the call to me and setting the thing up where she could stay. But she was, so I remember asking her about, well, what is this job you've got? She's rather vague, and so I even wondered, did she have a job? It turned out she didn't have a job lined up. And so she comes. Now at that stage, I've got a reasonably, well-paying gig, and I'm quite an organised guy, and it's the apartment is reasonably well set up and this sort of thing. So I go out the door in sharp suits in the morning, and I've got a decent enough car and the like, but she looks at all that and thinks, oh yeah, I can make myself well at home here. I can, whoa, gee, this is all right. Look at this. The refrigerator is full of food. The place is well or adequately furnished, and he's got a car. He seems like he's got a bit of money to throw around. Oh yeah, I can definitely fix myself up here. She decides. So she begins to take over, or tries to take over, and this is, again, all part of this analogy not only entitlement, but something quite infantile about it, like she just never had grown up or something like that, or never had to take risks. Now she was maybe a couple of years younger than me, so she was old enough to at least have a semblance of personal responsibility, but there wasn't anything there that I remember seeing. So she would be, well, I'm going out. She would say, you know, going to do whatever, interviews and looking for jobs, that sort of thing. This was pre-internet, so you'd go through the newspaper looking at jobs at the time. And but it was pretty clear she was spending all day around the apartment. The apartment was walking distance to the beach, and that seemed to appeal to her. But otherwise, you know, she wanted her own keys, and you sort of gave the impression that she thought the place was hers and I was the guest, and that was almost how things were going. So she would, you know, eat stuff out of the fridge, or stuff that I had, say, you know, that was my dinner that night, was the steak and the whatever. And she would just eat that herself, and she would empty out the refrigerator, but wouldn't go to the shop to get something. So she would say, she would eat all my stuff, and then she'd go and buy the smallest, you know, quarter pint of milk, and so, well, look, I bought something. She would say, look, you know, I'm contributing. You know, what, for 1/4 pint of milk? I mean, you're kidding me, right? While you're eating, you know, steaks and goodness knows what. So she didn't contribute to the cost of anything, yet was quite generous to herself in eating food. Then it got where she wanted me to give her money on the basis that she would go to the shop, you know, the grocery store, and do the shopping. So she's volunteering to do the shopping, when in fact she would just buy stuff for herself, and again would buy some some token piece of groceries to try and say, well, look, I got something for you. And that was me paying for it. It then went to, she was going through my stuff. Now I kept a pot, a ceramic pot of loose change, you know, small notes and coins, that sort of stuff. And I kept that there. I suppose just a shrapnel type stuff, but also for any emergencies. Bear in mind, we're going back to a time when a loaf of bread was 50 cents. So, but anyway, she found that she's going through my stuff, you know, the cupboards in my bedroom, and she'd found this money. And so she was just taking the money. I didn't realize this. And I went to get some change out of there and realized it was almost empty. In fact, I think it was like, it was a few, you know, 5-cent pieces or something in the bottom. So, so I asked her, where did the money go? And she got quite defensive and oh, well, you know, I was just looking for something. I was just looking for something, and I saw it there, and I know that you needed this and needed that, so I thought you wouldn't mind if I got it for you. No. If you're going to spend my money, you ask. Oh, if you're going to be like that, you know, what should I tell my brother, that you hate me? Is that, and that type of? She went down that path, and so so I said, hey, you know, that's my money. You don't go through my personal things. You just don't do it, all right? You're in someone else's place. You don't go through my personal things, and you don't take the money. Oh, I just thought you wouldn't mind. I was just looking for something. That's all. I was just looking. What were you looking for? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, I don't know. And we went through all that. So right now she's only supposed to stay 3 weeks. So I just reconfirmed this with her. You know, I'm having to lay rules down quite forcefully that I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to say, don't steal my money. I shouldn't have to say, don't eat my food, you know, and go and buy some groceries yourself, and so on. You know, I shouldn't have to do any of those things. But I, you know, and that creates sort of drama. She takes this as, oh, you hate me. You're trying to put me down. You're trying to, you know, be nasty to me. And you know, no, you're stealing my fucking money. There's nothing of that. And so this, and the sort of things she's doing, she would buy, you know, this very delicate vase or vases, as we pronounce it in Australia, on some sort of very thin, slim type stand that was very unstable. And she would put it in the hallway where you would have to turn sideways to avoid it. And so, you know, when I'd come back from work, she would jump into position on the couch that was facing the hallway. As I came through the door, not knowing that she put that there, that unstable stand with a delicate vase on it, she would say, "Watch out for that vase," and then would start, calling out instructions and pointing and vigorously gesticulating that I'd better watch it or else. And I'd say, "Well, what's that? Where did that come from?" "Oh, the hallway just needed some decorating. I thought you'd like me to make the place look nice." "Don't you want the place to look nice? Well, what, you don't like it when I try and do something for you?" And she would try and do that sort of guilt tripping. Now, this is, you could almost write a script on this and say, holy crap, this is the same sort of script that the mass migrants are in effect using when they come into the West. That they're entitled to make their own arrangements, and you're the Nazi if you disagree or even question it. And of course, that's where we are now, given that the propaganda sort of arm of the mass migration thing is very feminist and very, women that never grew up and never took responsibility or had to, then you can see how that dialogue would develop. So this was it. So as the 3 weeks were sort of coming to an end, I said, okay, well, have you got your job organised? Yeah. Oh no, it's taking a bit longer. And I remember the look on her face was she had no intention of finding a job. Oh, I thought maybe you'd like me to stay here a little bit. And she would like do an occasion. She'd boil, I don't know, make an omelette or boil some eggs once a week, and that was look what I'm doing for you. Look at all the things I'm doing for you. You're doing fuck all for me. So anyway, this was so I said, okay, well, look, your 3 weeks ends, on Friday, whatever day it was, and so I hope you'll be moving on, and wish you well, and and she goes through all sorts of things. She tries to accuse me of, you don't appreciate all, you've done nothing for me. Don't give me that crap. Then starts to say, well, you can't think of much of my brother if you're treating me this way, and that doesn't fly. And she tries the crying and all the things you can imagine. And she tries the lot, by the way. She's certainly creative in that sense. But I was adamant, saying, no, you're not going to throw me out in the street, are you? I'll be on the street. Oh, I got nowhere to go. So, well, you can go back, stay with your brother interstate. I mean, nothing's stopping you. Oh, but I want to stay in Sydney. I like it here more. Well, then, if you want to stay, you got to, well, why can't I stay with you? No. So she was just a freeloader. That's it. And I half wondered whether or not, her brother was glad to get rid of her on the basis that she'd been freeloading off him. But anyway, so so anyway, she got a job, I think, at a grocery store or something like that. And so she didn't have enough money to pay the bond on some apartment or something like that. She was like, doing a room share thing with somebody she'd found or whatever, and she didn't have enough money. So she stung me for $20 for that. But I thought it was money well spent to get rid of her, and so on. So then I had the tough time getting the key from her. She did take. I had a spare set of keys which she somehow found, and okay, so I wanted that back. Oh, I don't know where they are. I can't find. I don't know. Why are you being so horrible to me? No, I want the fucking keys. But this is how far it has to go, and you have to be quite resolute and determined, because once these mass migrants come in and they demand special dispensations and all sorts of special this and that, special representation, they've got an army of propagandists all around them that are constantly calling you a Nazi, fascist, you're Hitler and swastika. If you want to make sure that they live by the same rules, legal and otherwise, as the rest of us. Now that's fine. If you don't live by those rules, that's fine. I don't care. Go back to where you came from, or go somewhere else. But when you're here, you live by not just the rules, but reasonable things. You don't go stealing other people's money. You don't go poking through their private bits and pieces and all around their bedroom, looking, on the bullshit basis that you were looking for something and you can't remember what that was anyway, and then just stealing their stuff and then making your own arrangements, setting up your own rules as to what, even down to things like I'd be, say watching the television, and she would come in and we'd just switch the channels to another channel without asking me, or, oh, are you looking at that, Billy Bobby? And nothing like. She'd just go and do it. And you could tell from her manner that it was a power play. I mean, did she even want to watch the other channel? She was letting you know, I'm in charge here, and don't you forget it. But I'd pull her up on it and say, no, what are you doing? I was watching that. Oh, well, if you don't want me to watch anything, then and then she would try, no, I was watching that. If you want to change the channel, you ask me. Oh, do I have to ask me before I can do anything? Can I even go to the toilet with that? No. Don't try it on. I'm watching something, and you ask me. You ask me first if you want to change the channel. Oh, you're just so horrible to me. No, I'm not having that either. But that type of thing, and that's exactly what's happening with mass migration and what's going on, and you have to be quite resolute in standing up to it. You've been at Tassus today, your pushback channel. Thank you for listening.